Good morning, I'm Susan. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make some honey wheat bread. We do this several times during the month because we like to bake our own bread instead of buying it at the market. Actually, it's better and less expensive. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to get some warm water. Now this is going to be between 105 degrees and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. We don't want it too hot because I'm going to have to add yeast to it. And you get the water too hot, you kill the yeast. So the first thing I'm going to do is the recipe calls for a half a cup of warm water. Let me get a half a cup of warm water here. Alright, now we're going to add 5 teaspoons of yeast. This is not instant yeast, this is your regular yeast. And I keep it in a jar in the freezer. And that keeps it fresh a lot longer than if you left it out on the counter. So we're going to do 5 teaspoons. I almost did tablespoons, that would have been a disaster. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Now we're going to mix that up. We're going to let it set for a couple of minutes. We're not going to sit it. We're going to set it. Okay. Let that get nice and bubbly. If it doesn't bubble, the yeast is no good. Now we're going on to the liquid ingredients. And the recipe, let's say it calls for, I need 1 1/4 cups of milk. Now I'm going to mix all this in a 4-cup measure. You can do it in a bowl if you want, but I'm going to do 4-cup measure. I'm going to do 1 1/4 cups of milk. And we're going to do some honey. We're going to do 3 tablespoons of honey. I hope I've got enough in this last bit of my honey container. There's 1, 2. Oh, look at that. We're going to have, I think, just enough honey to finish off this container. I've got a big jug of honey downstairs, raw honey, from a friend of ours that has bees. We'll have to get that out, get everything done. Okay, now I need a different measuring spoon now that I got that all junked up. Okay, to that we're going to add 1 tablespoon of salt. You'd think I'd have this recipe memorized by now as often as I make it, but I don't. One less thing I have to worry about. Now I've got, calls for shortening. Now I have these handy dandy Crisco blocks, and I really like these because you have the measure on the side. Of course, you could use the big thing of Crisco and just dip a tablespoon in there and level it off. I find it's just as easy to do it this way. So I want, what did I say, 3 tablespoons. Let's get the tablespoon mark. We're at 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to mark it right there. Then I'm going to just cut it off. I'm kind of cut it in pieces here because we're going to have to warm all this and dissolve the Crisco. So let's get it in kind of little chunks here. There we go. So that takes care of the Crisco. Now we want 1 1/4 cup warm water. Here we go again. So I'm going to measure out at 1 1/4 cups of warm water. I don't want to get this too hot either. Okay. Now let's see. Might pop this in the microwave for a few seconds and get that Crisco dissolved here. You want to be patient when you make bread. I mean, it's nothing to hurry through. And in fact, it's kind of fun just to relax, take your time. All right. I'm going to put that in there for about 30 seconds and see where we are. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but look at the bubbles in the yeast. That's what we want to see. So I'm going to pour this into my mixing bowl. Now, I've had several people ask me about this mixer. This is an Anka, and it's made in Sweden. We really like it. It's heavy duty. It holds a lot. You could probably put 20 cups of flour in here and make a huge batch of bread. It doesn't take but a few seconds. Get that out of the... Okay, let's mix this up a little better. Now I'm going to check the temperature on this because I would like this warm. Got an Insta-Read thermometer here. Just going to put it in there. We're going to pop it in there for a little longer. I'm going to add another 30 seconds because I don't want to get it too hot. And I do have my whole wheat flour and just a white all-purpose flour. And the measurements I've got here, I think what I'm going to do with this is do 2 Pullman loaves, which are long, oblong, very square loaves. They're easier to slice and to toast. If you notice, I'm not moving too quickly today. I have a problem with my right shoulder. So I'm kind of favoring it. Okay, what do we got now? Well, there we go. Close enough for government work. All right, now we're going to pour the yeast and the water into the bowl. Let me get get most of it in there. All right. With the Anka, you want to add the liquid ingredients before you add the dry ingredients. Okay. There we go. This is turned on. We're going to start the process. This is going to be a little loud So I'm going to run it and I'll talk to you when it's done running. Let's turn it on here. I don't think I want to go that fast. Okay, now, got that mixed pretty well. Let's see if I can get this flour over here. And we're going to start adding flour. Now, this calls for 3.5 cups of unbleached flour, white flour, and then 2.5 cups whole wheat flour. We'll see what happens. It may require more flour, may require less. There's 1. 2. And I'm just going to add 3 cups of white flour right now. Let's turn this down a little. Mixing beautifully. I'm going to add just a couple cups of whole wheat flour. That's about 2. Now we'll see where we are. Looking good. But we're still pretty wet. So I'm going to add about another 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour and another 1/2 of whole wheat flour. Now these flour measurements I'm giving you are just kind of estimates because you never know how much moisture your flour has. Get a scraper here. Scrape some of this down. If you can see it, the ankashram has an attachment here that scrapes the sides of the bowl. Just quite handy. How are we doing here? Oh, look at that. We're coming together real good here. We're almost there. It's still a little tacky. Okay, let's get a good feel of this. Now I'm going to add just a tad more flour. And that's the thing with bread. Feel it. What does it feel like? I don't know if I could get that back in there. Let me get it away from the side of the bowl here. There we go. There we go. That ought to do it. Let's just put another, just do a little sprinkle in there. We're real close to being done here. Okay, look at that. That's what we're looking for, a ball. I'm going to move everything over here, kind of out of the way. Okay, just like the magic of TV, we got the dough out of the bowl. I'm going to knead it for a few seconds here. And then we're going to put it in a bowl and let it rise until it's doubled in size. It'll take about an hour or so. I think that's pretty good. Now these are a Pullman pan. They're just a long rectangular pan. And you put the lid on them, so when they raise inside, you've got a square loaf. So I'm going to get my bowl here. I'm going to put this in. I'm going to just spray it with a little pan here. Now I'm going to put it down. There we go. I'm going to spray the top a little so when it raises it won't stick to the cloth. And I have a damp towel here. So what we're going to do, we're going to cover this with a damp towel. I'm going to put it in a warm place, which is on the top of my oven. And we're going to let it rise till doubled in size for about an hour. And we'll be back then and show you what it looks like. Okay, here we go. Look at that. That's a beauty right there. Pour this out. Let me put a little flour here. I don't put too much. Isn't that a beauty? Look at that. I'm just going to pour it right out here. Wow. Now we're going to divide this in half. And I have my bread pans over here. I want to show you the bread pans. These are the Pullman pans. I showed you these earlier. These are U.S. steel pans. They cannot be sprayed with Pam. They either have to be greased with butter or shortening, or I found out that you can use this 100% pure avocado oil spray. And I had to spray this and I brushed it in. You want to make sure you get around the top too, because you slide these lids on and off. So let's get these done, shall we? We're just going to roll them a little bit. See if I can get them about the size of the pan. And pinch them together here on the bottom. Now, we'll put this in the pan. I'm going to kind of punch it down so that it gets into the corners. Then we're going to put this lid on and we're going to let this rise again for about, I don't know, it'll probably take half an hour, 45 minutes. Whatever you do, do not pull these lids off or you'll ruin the top of your bread. You'll know, 45 minutes to an hour, it doesn't matter. Set them right over here so that they rise. I know you're going to say, well, how do you know when they rise? Well, you're just going to have to assume it's risen in that pan because you cannot, like I said, pull the lid off. It'll just ruin the top of your bread. Unless you want to just let the bread dome over it. You could do that too. You just don't have a square. Let's get this. Let's get this pinched off the bottom too. Whoops. I come unpinched here. All right. And here we go. All right. Nice soft dough. That'll be some nice bread right there. Now it's going to have to rise again, and then we'll put it in the oven, and it can bake. Okay, we've baked the bread. We've taken it out of the oven. Look at that. Does that look good or what? We're going to turn it out. Here we go with the other one. Ooh-wee. Don't those look good? Nice and square. Gonna make great sandwiches or toast. So, pretty easy, huh? Now I would like to take a moment and thank all my subscribers. You have just been so supportive, and I couldn't do this without your support. Thank you so much. And may I say, until next time, blessings to you all.